Morning, everyone. This is the precept class, and I'm your guest speaker today. And I'm going to talk about the Jukai ceremony. And after we finish at 11, Keegan will receive the Kai in his Jukai ceremony in the Zendo. So this is kind of like a trailer of coming events. First of all, I want to say that Jukai means to receive the precepts. Ju is receive, and Kai is precepts. And the person who gives the precepts is called the Kaishi. And Kai means precept and Shi means teacher. But in my case, my name is Shishin. That Shi does not mean teacher, but it's related. My Shi means lion, and Shin is heart. So my Dharma name is Lionheart. But if you look at the characters for lion, there's two characters side by side. One of them is teacher, and the other is animal. So the lion is considered to be the teacher of animals. Okay? So if you wonder what I'm doing here, that's it. Teaching animals. But Maizumi Roshi said that Jukai doesn't necessarily, shouldn't just take it to receive the precepts. He said it's more than that. He likes to translate it as to reveal yourself as the precepts. So in other words, the precepts are not something that is imposed on you from the outside, but it's something that is a part of who you are, even though you may not realize it right now, but in the process of the ceremony, it's allowing these precepts to manifest and to reveal themselves as your life. Now, we don't ever do things in a vacuum or in isolation. I mean, always, whatever we manage to accomplish or achieve in life is never done solely by our own endeavors, but it always has the support of other people who in our life and people who we may not even know who bring us to this place. And so the first part of the Jukai ceremony is to show appreciation to all of the conditions that brought us to this place. So each person, several of you here have had the Jukai ceremony, and I know several others who are preparing for it here in the room. And for each one of us, we have our own motivation for having received the Jukai. But in one sense, it means that you're becoming a member of the Buddha family, and following the path of the Buddha. And but we don't walk the path alone. So we start out with appreciation first to the Buddha and then to our family. And Keegan's mother and wife will be witnessing his ceremony. And I don't know how much they'll understand, but that's okay. I'll tell you, there's a story of when the Buddha was encamped with his his community with his disciples, a man who was totally drunk out of his mind stumbled into the encampment and he blubbered to the Buddha that he wanted to be ordained as a monk. And so the Buddha prepared the ceremony, shaved the man's head, and ordained him as a monk. And then that next morning, the guy woke up with a terrible headache, and he put his hand up here and felt that all of his hair was gone, and he freaked out, and he ran away. And so the Buddha's disciples said to him, "Why, you knew that this was going to happen. Why did you ordain him?" And the Buddha said, "Well, the merit of him accepting the precepts into his life and ordaining, that merit will carry forward into his life, and we don't know what eventually will become of it." And so we don't know. I don't know if there's an end of the story, but Hollywood probably has a good one, what happened to this guy. So I was always a very reticent. I was an eager Zen student, but I was reticent for following certain rituals and traditions. And Maizumi Roshi kind of had to lead me through it. And I went to the Zen Center in Los Angeles, and maybe I was there for a year or two practicing very hard with Maizumi Roshi, very sincerely. And there would be other people who would come in, and after a month, they'd want to have Jukai, and they would have the ceremony. And I was working on the koan mu. And so one day, Maizumi Roshi said to me, "Why don't you have Jukai?" And I said, "Will it help me pass mu, the koan mu?" And he said, "Sure, sure, sure." So that's why I had Jukai. That was my motivation, to pass my koan. But then, of course, it became other things. And now that I'm a kaishi, where I can perform the ceremonies, it means more to me too. And I've studied the koans with Maizumi Roshi quite a bit. And I'll tell you another little secret of our lineage. Part of koan study is to study the precepts. You take each precept as a koan, and there's other things about it that you study. And some of you might know the history of the Zen Center of Los Angeles, but Maizumi Roshi grew up in an alcoholic family. And even though he was a Zen priest, he was an alcoholic. And it got to a point that his drinking was causing problems in the Sangha, and he agreed to go to a clinic, for rehabilitation, and he did. And when he came back, he said to me, "Shishin, I want you to study the precepts again with me," even though I'd finished them. And I studied the precepts second time with him. And the second time was a lot harder than the first time. He was really wanted to make sure that I revealed the Kai, that I embodied it, and it became part of me, because he saw his own shortcomings and the karmic consequences of that. Now, I want to reiterate that the Kai are not something that's imposed on you. It's something that has to naturally arise out of your own being. And, like the Ten Commandments, are in some states right now, they're being put up in and schoolrooms and enforced on people. But then I always find that it's amazing that some of these televangelists, I can't remember all of their names, but Tammy Faye and Baker, was his name Baker? Jim Baker? Huh?
I think Jim Baker.
Jim Baker, yeah. He was involved, I think, in some sexual scandals and financial scandals or something like that. And so they decided to change their ministry. Instead of 10 commandments, there's 8 commandments and 2, do the best you can. But that's all we can do, actually, is the best we can, because when we look at our precepts, like not killing, not taking life, but we have to take life in order to support our lives. It's impossible not to take life. So we have different ways of looking at the precepts. We say that, there's the strict, way of looking at it, that you absolutely don't take life. And then some Theravadan monks have a broom and they sweep the ground in front of them to make sure they don't step on any insects or small animals and injure them, and they're vegetarians, of course, but I mean, even, if you look at a bowl of sprouts, they look very alive, very vibrant, but we still, even if you're vegetarian, you eat sprouts. Yeah. So the other way of looking at it is we call the relative or bodhisattva way. It depends on the conditions. Everything depends on conditions. And we say the conditions are the time, the place, the people involved, and they say the amount, but I prefer the intensity of the situation, as to what you do, how you deal with it. For example, it's appropriate for me to talk about Jukai ceremony here, but if I went into King Soopers, and set up a little booth there and start talking about Jukai, it wouldn't be appropriate. Yeah. And the same thing with the precepts. When is it ever appropriate to kill? Is it ever appropriate to lie? Is it ever appropriate to steal? So each one of us have to reflect on that and see. And then there's the absolute perspective, which is everything's empty. If you see it clearly, everything's empty. There is no self, there is no other. So there is no killing. But that's very dangerous if you just take that perspective, because it can get you in a lot of trouble. So we have to be able to hold all of them, both the literal interpretation and the relative and the absolute. Hold all of them together. So first, the person receiving the kai makes bows to the Buddha in appreciation, bows to the family in appreciation, and bows to the kaishi in appreciation. And then to prepare for the ceremony, we invite all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to be present and to witness and bless the ceremony. So I'll chant that, and those who are present will repeat after me. And we invoke the 3 treasures, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And so they're present. And then the after that, we recite what's called the Gatha of Atonement. And atonement has a certain meaning in our minds, but it's kind of to prepare yourself for it. And the Gatha goes like this: all the evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. And some of the words might have a certain resonance, like evil karma, all evil karma. And some, I think Bernie Glassman's on some occasions he translated it as twisted karma instead of evil karma. But I was just looking at the Zen Peacemaker ceremony, and they still have using evil karma. But, so what does evil karma mean? Well, I don't think it's karma that's been promoted by Satan. I think that it's karma that causes suffering, karma to ourselves and to others. And how do we create that karma? We create it with our thoughts, with our speech, and with our actions. So our body, our thoughts, our mouth, and our body. And the cause of it, they say, are the three poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance, or we could translate them as craving, hatred, and delusion. You know, that's what it's delusion, not seeing things clearly and acting. When hatred grows, when anger grows, it can become hatred. But anger can also be used positively too. In order, when you see injustice, you might be angry at it and you want to do something about it. But craving or greed, I don't know if it has any positive aspects of it, but Maezumi Roshi once said, "I'm very greedy." He said, "I want all of you to awaken." That's my greediness. Yeah. So, and atone, what does atone mean? Well, I suppose there's an element of forgiveness in atonement, to forgive ourselves or to appreciate ourselves. But what I like about the word atonement in English, I suppose it doesn't translate into Sanskrit or Japanese or Chinese, is if you look at atone and break it up etymologically, it's at one. So atonement is at one-ment. It means to become one, to unify yourself. So not create a duality between yourself and your thoughts and your actions and your words, and not to create a duality between yourself and others and other things, but to really to unify yourself. So we chant the Gatha of Atonement, and we say it purifies the body, the mouth, and thoughts, and then also we have a water purification ceremony we do right after we chant it, and water purifies many things too. And so then, in a way, it's like preparing ourselves to receive the Jukai, the Kai, I mean. And then we chant the three treasures. Those are the first three precepts. There are 16 Bodhisattva precepts. The three treasures are the first three. And then we vow to become one with the Buddha, and one with the Dharma, and one with the Sangha. course, it's a whole study in itself. What is the Buddha and what is the Dharma and what is the Sangha? I mean, historically, the Buddha is the original teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, and the Dharma is the teachings of the original teacher. So it's all of the sutras. And the Sangha are those who gathered around the Buddha to practice together. So the Sangha is the community, and the Dharma is the teaching, and the Buddha is the teachers. But from another perspective, the Buddha is the absolute wisdom, and the Dharma is the relative, or the manifold, and the Sangha is the harmony between the Buddha and the Dharma. Like in the Heart Sutra, we chanted this morning, we say form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Well, if we think of that in terms of the three treasures, emptiness is the Buddha, form is the Dharma, and the Sangha is. It's the connection between the two of them. See? And we chant the identity of relative and absolute. And again, you can look at the same thing. The absolute is the Buddha, the relative is the Dharma, and the identity is the Sangha, bringing everything together. So there's a number of aspects of the three treasures, which we can explore together over time. And in fact, that's part of when you do koan study of the precepts, that's part of it, understanding what the three treasures are. And then there's the three pure precepts. Now, Master Dogen wrote a chapter on the Jukai ceremony. It's called Kyoju Kaimon. And for each precept, he wrote a little verse. And the first of the three pure precepts says, I vow to cease from evil. And Dogen wrote, this is the abiding place of laws and rules of all Buddhas. This is the very source of laws and rules of all Buddha. So to cease from evil, again, there's that word evil, but I can find it here. The Zen peacemakers, use this kind of as their tenets. So he says that that the cease doing evil is the same as not knowing and giving up fixed ideas about myself and the universe. So cease doing evil, it means to let go of all concepts, actually, of good and evil, and to approach every situation in life with an open mind. And that's what it says here, the mind of not knowing, to let go of fixed ideas. And the second of the three pure precepts is I vowed to do good. And Dogen says this is the Dharma of Samyak Sambodhi. This is the way of all beings. Samyak Sambodhi is the supreme enlightenment. And so I vow to do good. That means I vow to illuminate the world and all beings. And Bernie said that that's bearing witness. That means just being present without judging everything in your life and in the lives of others. And the last one is I vow to do good for others. And Dogen says this is to transcend the profane and to go beyond the holy. This is to liberate oneself and others. And Zen peacemakers say that it means to heal myself and others, to take appropriate action. So those are the three pure precepts, so there's the three treasures, the three pure precepts, and then the 10 grave precepts. Now, when I received the precepts, I don't know where Maizumi Roshi got the translation, but every one of them was kind of translated in a negative way, almost like the 10 Commandments. Don't do this, do not kill, do not steal, do not be unchaste, do not lie. And but then I think some of his successors over time tried to put a positive spin on it so it wasn't so negative. And so instead of saying not killing, we now say, I recognize that I am not separate from all that is. That is the practice of not killing, of non-killing. And then it goes on and says, I will not lead a harmful life nor encourage others to do so. I will live in harmony with all life and the environment that sustains it. So it kind of gives it a little bit of a different spin. And then instead of don't steal, it says, I will be satisfied with what I have. And, we'll go through each one of these in the ceremony. There's 10 of them. And if one is preparing for Jukai, it's an interesting practice to take just one of these 10 grave precepts and practice it for a week. And look at how many times during the week you feel like you're doing something that's contrary to the precept. I think we can defile the precepts and then it's kind of like dirtying our dishes, but then we can go and wash them up, and then again, deal with it. They say that there's 3 actions that will automatically cause you to transmigrate to hell. And those 3 are killing your mother or father, actually more than 3, killing an arhat, an enlightened person, injuring the Buddha, and causing dissension in the Sangha. So any of those actions, you'll immediately be reborn in hell. And of course, the bodhisattvas will go and protect you. But the Buddha had a cousin named Devadatta who was in his Sangha. And Devadatta was a very jealous man. He was jealous of the Buddha. And according to the records, he threw a rock at the Buddha, hit him, and caused a abrasion or a cut. So that was one strike. And then he started telling the Sangha members that he didn't think the Buddha was strict enough, I guess, that the Buddha wasn't really teaching them properly. So kept planting seeds of doubts in the Sangha, and so that was the second strike. And then he was transported to hell, and of course the Buddha transported himself to hell, and encountered Devadatta and forgave him and taught him how to, gave him a special teaching, on how to deal with this jealousy and rage that came out of it, and saved him. Then he became a devoted follower. So there's all kinds of stories like that. So nobody's a lost cause. There's the a Tibetan saint who was a killer and a thief, who was redeemed. I've forgotten his name. Some of you might know. It was green.
Milarepa.
Yeah, Milarepa. Yeah. Yeah. But in there's the Jataka tales, which are stories of the former lives of the Buddha. And sometimes they're presented as children's book. And in fact, Roshi Shinko and I are going to give a talk during Rahatsu on one of the Jataka tales, the banyan deer. But in this particular tale, the Buddha in a former life was on a boat, a ship, and he saw into the thoughts of a man who was kind of a scoundrel who was planning to steal everybody's wealth and kill everybody on board the ship. And so the Buddha interceded and actually killed this man to save the lives of the others. But he had to deal with that karma. That was in an earlier life, so he had to work through that. But that's where we say it depends on the time, the place, the people, and the amount, So that's a story that's often told, to show that none of these precepts are absolute. But, you just can't casually do something like that. How are we doing for time? Okay. And then after the person whose ceremony it is, each time we go through all of the precepts, and then I'll say, recite what the precept is, and then I'll say, will you maintain it? And then he'll say, I will, and then I'll say, bow. So there's lots of bowing after each one, full prostration. So each time we bow, when we go down to the ground, put our head on the ground, and then we release something that we're holding on to. But when we stand back up, we're a different person. So each bow, just let go. Let go. What am I holding on to? What's impeding me right now that I don't need? What am I carrying with me that's not necessary? And that's when somebody asked the Buddha, after all of his years of practice and all of his insight, what has he gained? And he said, I've gained nothing, but I've let go of a lot. So that's what we can do. It's just release whatever we're holding on to. It's important. And when we bow, do it with intention. Yeah. So, and then, of course, the person will receive the Raksu, which I've already written on it, and the date, and the verse of the Kesa that we chant when we put on our rock suits. And we do that. Each time we put on our rock suit, it's written on the back of it, the vast is a robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teachings, saving all sentient beings. And then we put on our rock suit. And we put it on our head while we chant that, and then we put it on. And it'll have the Dharma name, so I don't usually tell the Dharma name until the ceremony, so there's an element of surprise. But usually I talk to the person beforehand, is there something particular that's important to them? So it's interesting when Maizumi Roshi talked to me about a Dharma name. I remember my father, when I was born, he gave me a Hebrew name. It's Tzodik Leib. Tzodik Leib. Tzodik means righteous, and Leib means heart. So righteous heart was my Hebrew name. And then I told Maizumi Roshi I'm a Leo. I was born under the Leo sign. And so that's when he came up with Lion Heart for my Dharma name. But sometimes the names are kind of similar, the German names, like Paul Agostinelli's Dharma name is Giotto. Maizumi Roshi gave it to him. That's because this comes from an Italian family, and his middle name was Guido. So Maizumi Roshi came up with Giotto, for that. And there was there was a woman named Joan George, and her Dharma name was Joan, kind of like Joan, so similar. But we tried to find a characteristic or something that the Dharma name will inspire you, to live up to. So, and then at the end, there's a gatha on receiving the Kai, and it says, we enter the realm of the Buddhas. And there's one line, another line is, truly we are the children of the Buddha. So when we receive Jukai, you become part of the lineage, and you receive a lineage chart too. And I just have blank ones, and I have the person fill in all the names of the ancestors, starting from Shakyamuni Buddha through all of the Indian ancestors, and then through Bodhidharma, who brought our lineage from India to China, and then through all the China ancestors, to Dogen, who brought the teachings from China to Japan, and then through Maizumi Roshi, my teacher, who brought it from Japan to the United States, then through me and Roshi Shinko. And then at the end of the ceremony, you write your name at the end. And it's not a linear chart. If you look at it, it goes through all the names, and then it circles all the way back to the Buddha. So it's kind of like a flow of energy of all of the ancestors, and through you and from you back to the Buddha, continual flow of energy and teachings. So that's part of the karma, that brought you to this place, is a lineage. And being part of an authentic lineage, I think, gives one confidence, in our practice and appreciation. So, and then at the end, the person receiving Jukai will follow the guest master around the room and thank in Gasho, thanking everybody for being there and witnessing it. and blessing the ceremony. And then we'll have time to meet and congratulate him and say, wow, you sure do look different now. So that's what I have to say. If anybody has any questions or comments, now's a good time.